I have learned to stick to my guns and blades and not give up so quickly. Dragon Age means the world to me, and I dare say the game saved my life. We lost our home, and just like that, my dad sort of ditched me a few weeks after I graduated when I was still 17, and I fell into a frighteningly dark depression. I didn't have my brother or sister. I was alone, and I knew it. Dragon Age was all I had to keep my mind busy and relax. When I felt like I had lost everything and everyone, I thought about Hawk. To stay strong and keep moving forward no matter what comes my way, and to make a few witty comments about it while I was at it. I thought about how Varric continued to care and how he was always kind no matter how many times he had been hurt. I drew inspiration from that. I used to be so guarded and afraid of being hurt, so apathetic. These characters in this world helped and inspired me to change that and improve myself by inches. And I'm still improving. Yay! Krem was a breath of fresh air too. I cried when I realized he was trans and cried even more when Bull reassured him that he was a real man. It's tough when no one around you takes who you are seriously. This is getting long, but Dragon Age has changed me in a way I can't explain. Little by little, it reinforced things I wanted to see in myself and inspired me to be a stronger person. I survived, and I honestly owe half of that to Dragon Age. Thank you.
I used to be a button-mashing, awful gamer. Dragon Age inspired me to write fanfics, and in doing so, forced me to research and understand the intricacies of really playing a game and understanding how each upgrade and percentage affected certain skills. It made me a better gamer all around, and I can now hold my own in PvP situations. I've made the best of friends.
It made me learn a language. I stumbled upon Dragon Age 2 back in 2012 when I was just in high school, thanks to a friend who suggested it to me. The fantasy setting and characters immediately made me fall in love with the series, but the thing was that there wasn't a voiceover for my language, just subtitles. It wasn't really a problem, but I felt as if I was missing a part of the experience. So since I had the basics of English down thanks to studying it in school, I decided to improve it further on my own with playing the games in the original version. It was gradual, but with that in school, I started to actually like consuming media in English, so much so that now it's my preferred language if the original isn't in my own. I can even write, or try to at least, in it, letting my imagination run free and wild. It may be not much, but this series made me want to learn to see the world, fictional and not, and it helped me get the tools needed for my journey. That's why, no matter how old I get, this series will always have a special place in my heart.
Some years back, I suffered from a deep depression. I was out of a job, I had cut out a close group of friends from my life because one of them bullied me, and my relationship was suffering as a result of my diagnosis. I had no self-confidence, and my self-worth was non-existent. One day, I asked my partner at the time if I could try this game he had been raving about, hoping that something would occupy my mind. That game was Dragon Age Origins. I played the game, and I was enthralled. I then played Dragon Age 2. I know the character Anders is controversial, but I related to him deeply. Someone had created a character that mirrored my hopelessness, my despair, and even how I felt like I would try to do good, and it never feeling like it was enough. I was so deeply touched by these characters, and it possessed me to write. Having been diagnosed very late in my life with dyslexia, going through high school and college without any extra help, I had always been told I couldn't write, even though I had always wanted to. But after playing Dragon Age, I just had to. I started writing fan fiction, very poor fan fiction, but with time my writing improved. It became an outlet for me to confront my emotions and put into words everything I had bottled up inside for years. Because of Dragon Age, I found a positive outlet to deal with my depression. I improved my written English to the point where my dyslexia isn't noticeable anymore, and I have now started writing my own books. If anyone on BioWare's writing team is reading this, then thank you for helping me find the courage to face the obstacles inside and outside of myself. Even though you don't know it, you helped me start this journey, and I will always be grateful to you.
I was first introduced to Dragon Age at the BioWare base at PAX Prime 2014, my first con ever. BioWare had been introduced to my life through Mass Effect, which a friend insisted that I needed to try out, but I was completely unaware of Dragon Age's existence. I met an amazing, unknown to me at the time, Flemeth cosplayer while participating in the BioWare base parade in my N7 armor, who intrigued me greatly. After PAX, I looked up Dragon Age, purchased Origins, pre-ordered Inquisition, and fell completely in love. Dragon Age expanded my knowledge of the amazing universes that BioWare can create, but more importantly, it has given me so many friends, hours of entertainment, and joy that has helped ease me through the rough times. It has helped me expand my knowledge of so many important topics and has helped improve my own creative side through the fantastic artists that draw, write, and create such masterpieces for me to enjoy and be in awe of. Dragon Age is a love that never wavers and has never left, and I look forward to many more years of love for everything associated with it.
Dragon Age is a story of tragedy, drama, and learning to let go and cope. Whether it's Solus, unable to let go of the past, thereby showcasing how destructive that can be, the willingness to do whatever it takes at the expense of those he cares about, and how willingness to do whatever it takes can also take it too far, the grief and sorrow he feels for the result of his past actions, of putting the elves in their current situation, the Inquisitor, yanked out of their life in a very traumatic way and thrust into a world-changing leadership role, the Warden, young, barely an adult, thrust into the position of being the only one who can stop a horrid catastrophe after just losing their mentor. All these things and more have helped me self-reflect and learn to cope with my own mental health and learning disability issues. I was able to find like-minded people online, and I've opened back up and been self-reflective in the best possible way. It has started inspiring me to write again, draw again, and create again, all things that depression had taken from me. It taught me that I don't have to constantly be happy to be okay. I can be somewhat sad or happy or anything. It's okay, and I'll be okay. It has made me accept who I am and treat others around me better. And that's how DA changed me, and continues to change me, and will always be with me.
I wasn't really sure how to start this, because it might be a little heavier than what is expected. Trauma is tricky, and it likes to rear its ugly head when you least expect it. My world fell apart 2 years ago, out of the blue, and it was like being thrown into choppy water with the undertow dragging you slowly down. Everything I loved stopped meaning anything. Didn't matter if it was loved ones, art, or my hobbies. I was vanishing. I wanted to vanish. I'd lost my power, and what was left after, that didn't seem worth it. One night on a whim, I was on Origin, and I saw Dragon Age 2 and Dragon Age Origins were on sale. I'd played Dragon Age Inquisition years prior, but had never really delved too heavily into the characters, outside of some light, fluffy fun. I started out of order, jumping into Dragon Age 2, and within the hour I'd met Fenris. Flawed as he might be, here was this beautifully written character trying to get his power back, to find freedom and control in his life, a power that had been stolen from him. I found myself smiling, like genuinely smiling, for the first time in a long time. Out of nowhere, I felt that first hint of inspiration coming back and desire to get back my power, to be in control. Over time, I found steady ground again. I found my imagination, and I've begun to write. Through my characters and their ever-growing stories, I've been able to find my own voice again. Through Dragon Age, I've been able to face trauma and be a badass hero who will never ever let anyone take her power again. So thank you, BioWare, and especially writers like Mary Kirby, Patrick Weeks, and David Gator, for helping save my life and helping me realize that I am the hero of my own story, and villains and powerlessness have no place in it.
Dragon Age hasn't really changed me, but it has given me the chance to find respite from my everyday life. It's a place I can lose myself in. Both my boys are on the autism spectrum, and I'm their mom and full-time carer too. I get very little downtime, and when I do get it, I head into Thetis and save the world. Don't get me wrong, I'm madly in love with my kids, but this game keeps me sane and gives me the break I need. It's self-care and does wonders for my mental health, apart from the crazy challenges I undertake in the game. I honestly don't know where I would be without Dragon Age. I know that sounds over the top, but it's the absolute truth. It quite literally saves me on the really tough days.
Finding the Dragon Age series felt like something of a blessing at a time of need. The strength and pursuit of bettering yourself and others, never giving up. My protagonist inspired and encouraged me to overcome some of my anxious fears in life. The companions in the games feel like family and are always there for me when I'm going through tough times. These games make me happy, accepted, included, and feel like a safe haven. When my character's heartbroken, I'm heartbroken, and I love that the game, writers, voice actors make me feel that. And those feelings of sadness or joy have inspired me creatively. It inspired me to cosplay, write, create my own characters, and to be freely expressive and to have hope. Dragon Age has a special place in my heart because it's brought self-growth to my life. Thank you so much to all who have helped make these games.
The world of Thetis is so incredibly huge, so expansive, and both incredibly beautiful and horrifyingly terrible, much like life. I tend to sink into depressive episodes where my mind wants to do nothing. When that happens, I find myself sinking headfirst into all the media surrounding Dragon Age. Books, movies, comics, and games alike. It helps somehow, having a place my mind can go where all the little choices we make have an impact. Even if we don't see it directly, in the game or otherwise, because maybe it was a small thing, like finding a grieving widow's husband's wedding ring, or telling a fraught mother the fate of her son. During these things may have absolutely no impact on the actual world, but for those characters, it is a huge thing. It reminds me that little things can make a huge difference for people involved, even if it doesn't create world peace. Of course, saving the world over and over helps too.
It makes me love writing. I passed hours rewriting the codex on my notes for relaxation. As an artist, I got a real obsession on this game, mainly because of the lore, and it inspired my art and stories a lot.
I discovered the Dragon Age series almost 2 years ago now. I was in recovery at the time after a bout of severe depression, and still working things out emotionally after finding medication that worked for me. One of the things that helped me was video games, because it provided a form of escapism. My anxiety, depression, and PTSD felt like less of a burden when I was playing in another world. Dragon Age Inquisition was a game changer. I was sucked in and fell in love with the characters, especially Solus. I laughed and I cried, and I became so attached to my Llewellyn. I turned a corner in my recovery, and I'm healthier than ever now. I've put hundreds of hours into all 3 games, and I'm so grateful to everyone who has ever been involved in the creation of a series I love so dearly. Thank you.
Dragon Age made me appreciate writing and inner workings of world and character creation. I wasn't exactly into video games growing up, but I liked fiction, especially fantasy stories about magic and witches and fairies, or anything out of the ordinary really. Of course, they were inspiring to me, and I tried to make my own stories as well, but I always felt dissatisfied with my own creations. Be it my characters, who were incredibly boring cardboard cutouts filled with even more boring cliches to me, or plots and scenarios that weren't even remotely exciting, I didn't feel connected to or invested in anything my mind produced. What I somewhat liked to do was writing history of the worlds I was attempting to create and establish its rules. And Dragon Age was the first thing that not only showed me a vast and very alive, changing fictional world full of history and rules and consequences of breaking them, but also let me be a part of it and experience it through my own character. My first, and now my absolute favorite and canon warden, was the first character of my own I was able to get invested in. For the first time, I was interested in actually developing a character and experiencing Thetis through this character, who wasn't really me in the game, or their own person I play as, made it possible. With time, I started to figure out what I was missing, and thanks to my investment in the Dragon Age series, I got invested in the process of its creation too. I think looking at stories and characters from their creator's point of view really helped me improve my critical thinking towards fiction in general, and taught me to analyze it and look at it from different angles. Dragon Age gave me a fictional world full of inspiration, an opportunity to explore and even somewhat change and develop both Thetis and characters I see it through with choices I make. It helped me improve aspects of myself and my art. I just never get tired of revisiting the series, and there's always something new to find, even if I'm doing the same exact things again and again. Submitted by Hanarin.
Well, where to start? It is difficult for me to talk about this game without doing it for 5 hours straight. Dragon Age is my favorite saga. I met it for being one of the games given an Xbox Live Gold. It's never too late to enter a saga. I fell in love with this game. It made me appreciate video games and everything they can give, music, history, gameplay, etc., and to feel a genuine bond with the characters. For this point in my life, no video game had made me feel things like the Song of Leliana, or that ending that left me empty because my adventure in Ferelden was over. It is a game made with love and detail. Thanks, BioWare, for what you've given us and for what will come.
Like all teenagers, I went through the struggles of fitting in, discovering my likes and dislikes and trying to be a well-rounded student. In times of stress, I would always play video games, but Dragon Age has a special place in my heart because it helped me to figure out who I am and what I hold valuable. It let me explore my sexuality in a way I wasn't ready to explore in real life, and led me to be true to myself now as an adult. It led me to think more about my actions and how it affects others, and where I would draw the line in accepting others' actions as well. It confirmed my belief in giving people second chances, like sparing Zevran and putting trust in him where others in your party would not. This game is made for entertainment, but to me it is so much more than that. I found a loving community that supports others and encourages others to be the best that they can be. I love this game, and I love the people who make the community.
I started playing Dragon Age when I was in a very low part of my life. Everything had just plateaued and I couldn't see a way out. Playing Origins, being built up by those characters, being able to escape for a couple of hours a day, really helped me to grow my confidence in mental health, and helped me to move on from a bad relationship as well, after making me realize I deserved better. 2 has a special place in my heart also. Each of the character arcs taught me something, but it was Fenris and Meryl's that taught me the most, about how letting go of the idea of revenge can stop the poison growing inside you. But not all people are worthy of forgiveness, and that even the best people with the best intentions can make the worst choices. It also taught me that a figure 8 is the best pattern for evading an angry Arishok. But Inquisition holds a huge part of my heart. I started playing that game when I was pregnant. I had a rough pregnancy and lost the ability to walk 5 months in. So it became my escape, losing myself in a fantasy world which honestly saved my sanity. Even after my son was born, it was a great way to unwind between feedings. Now he watches me play and helps me decide what decisions to make. These games mean a lot to me, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Dragon Age helped me come to terms with being pansexual. I was also able to start taking steps to combat my depression and anxiety. I feel better than I have in years. Thank you everyone from the Dragon Age team for helping me take steps in the right direction.
To say that Dragon Age has shaped me is an understatement. As a gamer, Dragon Age 2 was my first RPG ever, introducing me to a world that I cherish and love every day. When Inquisition was announced, I finally made up my mind and bought a PC, just so I could play it when it came out, and I am still playing all 3 today. As a writer, Dragon Age has shown me how powerful relations and incredibly written characters can be so important to us. As a student, it has given me the courage to take video games as a valid and incredibly interesting object of study, so much so that I am now studying to take my master's degree here in Brazil by studying the power of interactivity in games and specifically how Dragon Age does it. And finally, as a person, Dragon Age has shown me that we can all work together for a better future for our world and that we should always strive for greatness. Thank you to all that worked on such a great series and for continuing to break all our hearts in regards to a certain wolf. Dareth Shiral.
Since discovering Dragon Age and Mass Effect years ago, all other games have become filler until the next Dragon Age or Mass Effect installment. No others can compare. I love the worlds, the characters, and the stories. If I went to an alternate reality, I hope it would be Thetis.
Most of the good things in my life right now I can attribute to playing Dragon Age Inquisition for the first time. I became very close with a friend at work, but I made a Twitter because she had only played the first 2 games and I needed more people to talk to. Thanks to that Twitter, I started writing for a video game website where I made amazing friends. I also discovered Dungeons & Dragons because of that Twitter and introduced it into my life and the life of my other IRL Dragon Age friends. D&D has become so incredibly important in my life, and I doubt I would be having any of the fun I'm having if I hadn't started playing Dragon Age Inquisition back in 2015. Not to mention all of the fantastic people I have met in the DA Online community and the countless hours I've spent actually playing Dragon Age. Thank you.
Dragon Age is my go-to whenever something goes wrong. I can always depend on this series. The stories and lessons from these games shape me to who I am today. This platform has given me something that I can cherish for a long time, and I don't plan on leaving anytime soon. This game has become my life. I've played every game, and I've read half of the books. I'm so excited for the next installment to the series, and I have no doubt that it's going to be just as good as the others.
Well, it helped me to be more brave and sociable with people. It's silly, but the game is all I had when I was younger. It was family. It is family. Doesn't matter if they're just pixels. They give me something I needed back in the day. A friend.
The Dragon Age franchise has changed me in many ways, but the biggest way it has changed me is it helped me realize my sexual orientation. It started in Dragon Age Origins with Liliana. In her romance, you can romance her without having to do anything sexual with her, and that felt special to me, though I didn't put much thought into it at the time. And then with Dragon Age 2, there was Meryl, where while her romance does require sex as part of it, there was something about her personality regarding romance that resonated with me. I remember talking on the forums back when the characters considered sexually ambiguous, which was what I had started to call myself since none of the orientations I knew really fit me, and how there were similarities in her romance to me. And that led to a discussion about demisexuality, which I investigated, and suddenly everything clicked into place. That was me. And last, and certainly not least, there was Dragon Age Inquisition with Josephine. With her, it was like all the aspects of the franchise that led me to this point had come together. Not only was sex optional in her romance, but it was left completely ambiguous and focused entirely on the non-sexual aspect of it. Then, her writer stated that seeing not just her romance, but the character itself as demisexual was a valid interpretation, and years later the same would happen with Meryl. And with these characters, I was able to discover a part of me that I didn't know before, and that's one way that Dragon Age changed me.
Dragon Age was the first video game that me and my now wife bonded over. We just had a Dragon Age themed wedding because of how we enjoy the game. Its focus on relationships resonated with us at a time when our relationship was developing and evolving. It's changed our outlook on media that we consume, especially with video games, but also with moral decisions in everyday life, and the way we look at eggs. We were standing in Best Buy, where I work, and in a dry spell as far as games to play at the moment. And, as lovers of fantasy and dragons, we saw Dragon Age Inquisition in a value bin, and I casually said, This one has a dragon on it, and it's only $20. From that moment on, it was history. I had been a huge fan of the Knights of the Old Republic games, so I was familiar with BioWare to an extent, but we binged the Dragon Age series. We would talk extensively about what one another had chosen for decisions while the other was at work. We hypothesized daily about how certain characters would react in different situations. My wife even got an Eye of the Seeker tattoo. And, like I said, we were so impacted by the series that we had a Dragon Age themed wedding. Complete with armor and weapons, our unity ceremony was the joining. We both survived, and, while we drank from the chalice, our officiate read the words: in marriage, commitment; in love, selflessness; in family, togetherness.
When I saw Dragon Age Origins at PAX, I knew it was going to be special. It, and each game after it, continually reminding me of the best parts of the world building, storycraft, and the importance of having multiple genders to smooch. Love what you craft and craft it well are the mottos I've taken away from the series, and hope to reflect in my own life. That, and to be cautious when romancing a mage.
Dragon Age has quite literally changed my life. It reignited my love of writing, gave me coping mechanisms to deal with anxiety, and introduced me to a Tumblr full of laughter, thirst, and inspiration. After finishing the whole game cycle for the second time in 2 years, I felt empty and devoid of all the in-game friendships and romance. At that time, I was very lonely, living abroad with my now ex-partner. So I started to write fanfiction, something I never thought possible. But I wrote for myself, to escape, to dream, to feel less alone. And all of a sudden I was writing poetry again and short stories, and now I'm writing a novel. Without Dragon Age, I would have never ever accepted my own creativity, nor felt brave enough to write down all the stories in my mind. In the stories I write, I can put all the things that give me anxiety, where my loyal friends Varric, Dorian, and Iron Bull are always there to support and comfort me. I write about them being there when I'm in the hospital getting pre-cancer treatment, when I'm so depressed I cannot see the light anymore, when I find a new job and celebrate. I know it might be a bit mad, but I feel so supported and strengthened by these thoughts. And even though I'm not very good at getting in contact with Dragon Age folks on Tumblr, I do appreciate so much the writing and art I find there. It makes me feel part of a big warm family of similar minds. All in all, without Dragon Age, I wouldn't be writing. I would feel more anxious and more alone. It changed my life for the better so incredibly much. Dearest Dragon Age team, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the wonderful world you've created and shared with us all.
I had an exceptionally hard time adjusting after I had to stop working due to health concerns. I'd never been much of a gamer, but my husband convinced me to try Inquisition. It opened up whole new worlds, which helped me to adjust to my reality and gave me a coping mechanism for my particularly difficult days. I'll never forget BioWare and Dragon Age for that.
For one thing, the game's art helped improve my own art, and the characters became a safe haven for me. It may sound weird, but the uniqueness in the characters' personalities also helped me cope with how to deal with different people, so I'm very thankful to Dragon Age for that. Overall, DA never fails to make me happy, and I don't regret having installed my first game, DA2, on my PC.
Dragon Age has made me realise that I'm not alone in the world. It's also made me realise that no matter what, I'm valid, no matter what my beliefs are.
Fenris is genius, and here's why. Let's talk about trauma and exploration. Fenris is commonly dismissed as a standard grimdark edgelord trope, or as an uninspired, oh-so-emo Final Fantasy ripoff. But let's actually boil down who he is, and why he means so much to me. Having been assigned male at birth and not having vocabulary to understand that I was transgender as a child, I didn't really have a script when I was groomed and sexually abused by a grown woman who publicly self-identified as a feminist. I wasn't even aware I was being abused. I loved her, I thought, and I wanted her approval. And when I was old enough to realize it was wrong, I did as a teenager have a chip on my shoulder about feminism. It was wrong then and it's still wrong now because trauma isn't an excuse. It's not an excuse to become an anti-feminist or any of the other toxic-ass guff I entertained when I was 15. To put it plainly, I changed. I gained distance from my trauma. I examined who I am and what I am outside of it. And it's not an excuse to hate random people who just happen to be born with strange magical powers. Fenris's character backhands the idea that trauma is an excuse. The game presents Fenris's slavery and sexual abuse at the hands of his erstwhile master as explanation for his bigotry, paranoia, unpleasant demeanor, and aggressive distaste for Meryl in particular. But it never, even once, portrays Fenris's hatred as justified. He's portrayed as what he is, a surly, unpleasant squatter who nobody with the possible exception of Hawk and Isabella actually likes. But this can change over the course of the game, as he becomes more empathetic and gains more distance from his trauma. As he grows up, Fenris isn't an edgy, cool anti-hero. He's a broken, traumatized alcoholic who copes with it poorly and can, by making human connections and rekindling his capacity for empathy, grow past it. And that's why, as a character, Fenris is genius. At least to me.
Dragon Age, I feel, has done so much for me. It has helped me better understand myself through the decisions and party members I have made along the way and brought me a sense of companionship in a very difficult time of my life. When I first played through Origins, I was enthralled by the story and the characters that I wanted to help create these kind of stories to inspire others. Thanks to this series, I have been in game development for almost 6 years now, working towards that dream, and I have never regretted that decision.
Dragon Age Origins was the first fantasy RPG I ever played. I bought it in August 2010 with no idea what the game was about, and it blew my mind away. The franchise itself blows my mind every time I play. Dragon Age introduced me to amazing characters, gripping stories, and gave me feelings of companionship, awe, and adventure. The Dragon Age games will always be my favorite, and I can't wait for stories to experience.
Dragon Age started the fires of my passion for video games, RPGs specifically, and is still letting me dive into a fantastic world. Without Dragon Age, I probably wouldn't be an active part in the gaming community, with making fan art, etc. I would be a gamer, but not with this much passion that I am today. And I'm really thankful to everyone involved, all the people who worked on it, who are still working on it, and all the fans who welcomed me into their midst. I'm also massively grateful that it is such a massive source of motivation and inspiration for my art. To the devs, thank you so much for being awesome geniuses, and thank you for creating this wonderful world and that was able to build this marvelous community on top of it, and that is enabling us to create so many amazing stories of our own. Thank you, and keep being awesome. Also, don't forget to save your stuff.
Dragon Age has been a huge part of healing with my mental health. I felt alone and scared during a dark time where my depression and anxiety hit massive lows. I had failed a suicide attempt and was self-harming to cope. I finally picked up these games that were a gift to me and started playing as a distraction. I found myself falling in love with this whole other world of characters and stories. I found myself a new passion in art, and most of all, I found an amazing group of fans to relate to. Some of those fans have turned into some of the greatest, most supportive friends I have ever known. Thank you, more than I can ever truly express, to the entire team who brought this amazing world into my life.
Oh, where should I start? Well, for starters, I met my fiancé through our mutual love for this amazing series. Its in-depth characters have taught me that even at our lowest points, there's always a way to win.
I have new love for fantastic characters and their development. The games made me look at political and economic problems around me with a different perspective.
Yes, I never really liked the type of overhead party games, but Dragon Age was just so different, and I really fell in love with it. I've played all of them multiple times.
When I discovered the Dragon Age games, I experienced the feeling of having found something I hadn't even known I was looking for. It filled a place in my heart. It opened up a new world for me, full of characters and stories that were so easy to fall in love with. It renewed my inspiration after a years-long creative slump. I was finally able to make art and stories again. It helped me through some very difficult times. It gave me strength and comfort. And probably the best thing of all, it brought me to so many amazing friends I probably wouldn't have met otherwise. I was so nervous and shy when I began to engage with other fans for the first time, but my Dragon Age family is full of the most loving people. I wouldn't trade them for anything. And now here I am, a part of Dragon Age Day, which has truly been an amazing experience. The changes Dragon Age has made in my life may not seem huge, but they're there, and they're treasured. Thedas is my home away from home. It's a place I can return to whenever life gets too tough. The characters are old friends who remind me to be strong, to be loving, to fight for what I believe in, and that life's full of great stories if you take the time to look.
It gave me creative inspiration and passion towards the complex and unique world of Thedas.
The game has made my big sister and twin brother closer than they were, and I've been able to get my friend to learn English better because she saw me play it, while I also came to learn what it is to belong to a minority, be it race or religion.
I fell into Dragon Age around the time that Dragon Age 2 was new. My best friend and I were at the video game store and I saw the games on display and casually mentioned that someone I knew from online had been talking about some guy named Fenris. My BFF bought both of the games and a few days later informed me that I needed to play the first one in particular, so I fired up the BFF's PS3 when she went to bed. Just one more cutscene, I kept telling myself. I have to know what's coming next. Just one more. Oh wait, is that the sunrise? She ended up buying me my own used PS3 for my birthday that year, just so I could play the games whenever I wanted. Dragon Age gave me an extra means of bonding with my best friend. It gave me a new creative outlet for my writing. I love it for the same reason I love many other games. As a person with invisible disabilities, I'm probably never going to save the world or be anybody's hero. But when I step into Thedas, I get to be the person I've always wished I could be. But above all else, Dragon Age gave me Varric, the character who helped me ultimately feel like it's okay to be myself. No, I'm not a snarky and charismatic dwarf, but he and I have a lot of things in common. Varric honestly means more to me than any other fictional character ever has, and the fact that he is so flawed and so burdened, yet so determined to do the right thing, helps me feel like it's okay that I'm all those things too. I've written to Mary Kirby about how much I love the dwarf, and discussed him with her on Twitter. I imagine she probably wonders about my sanity, but she's always been extremely gracious. So thank you, BioWare. Thank you, devs, writers, artists, and everyone who is in some way connected with the creation of these beautiful games. Thank you for giving us our own golden city to visit, and the fantastic cast of characters who greet us when we arrive. May we always bear our blades and raise them high.